Hey everybody, welcome back to another video, and in this video today, we are going to be talking even more about In Space with Markiplier Part 2. So let's start off talking about the one and only Darkiplier. So in the very end of In Space with Markiplier Part 2, you get an in-credit scene where it has Darkiplier picking up the blue crystal that lets you time travel and teleport to like different dimensions and all that. And that is super cool, but it also brings up a different question we can ask. And that question is, what now? So Darkiplier takes the crystal, like, what is he gonna do with it? Knowing his character, what can we most likely predict that he is going to try to do with it or use it for? But let's take a step back for a second, because we might already know what he does with the crystal. All because of the fact that right after the Darkiplier post-credit scene, the screen goes black and we get an end card that leads us to a heist with Markiplier. This leads many people, and even Lost Kid himself, to believe that In Space with Markiplier takes place right before a heist with Markiplier, and then that takes place right before a date with Markiplier, where Darkiplier tries to get revenge once again. So now that I got that out of the way, this solution still brings up one final question, and that question is, how does the blue crystal go from being in the hands of Darkiplier to being on a box in a museum? So I feel like this could actually be answered in a future project that Markiplier could release, like how he released Wilford Mother-Loving Wharfstache, where it's like in between everything Wilford Wharfstache and Who Killed Markiplier. This one could be something just kind of like that, but instead of Wilford, it's about Darkiplier and what he does with the blue crystal to make it end up going or becoming that box artifact that we steal in a heist with Markiplier. Who knows, maybe that could be Markiplier's next project. Since in his livestream he made celebrating 10 years, he did say that he will continue making these projects.
Do this because I'm not going to stop making things. I've been doing this for 10 years, and I now more than ever, I want to make stuff more than ever before. Like, it's kind of crazy.
And that's when I saw this comment. Amazing Purple Girl said, "There is no timeline to fit space in. It's from a different universe where Mark is stuck to engineering. So really, it comes at the end and the beginning and the middle of the MCU simultaneously. Everything you are experiencing is timelines crashing into one another as the multiverse falls apart." Now, this comment made me realize things that I never really seemed to realize or even question. The timeline for In Space with Markiplier, or more specifically, In Space with Markiplier Part 1 and the end of Part 2, is its own timeline where Wilford Wharfstache isn't canon, Darkiplier isn't canon. There are no Markiplier lookalikes. All there is Engineer Markiplier. Everybody only looks like themselves and have their own unique looks to them. And anytime Markiplier plays a different person in Space with Markiplier, it's only whenever you have traveled to a different dimension. And notice how in Part 2, whenever you're going dimension through dimension by going through the blue wormhole, notice how the people from the past dimension you were at, they're all in the kind of wormhole void area with you, going into different dimensions just like you. So all these different Markipliers, all these different chefs, they are going through the wormhole to other dimensions. That would explain why there are so many Markiplier lookalikes in the universe where Who Killed Markiplier takes place, or where Wilford Wharfstache takes place, because they're all from different dimensions, but because of you being the captain, you kind of messing up going through dimension, and them also going through the wormhole with you unwillingly, they end up in different dimensions where there already exists a person like them in that dimension. If you've seen the Loki Disney Plus show and you see how there's all those like different variations of Lokis, the Loki variants from different dimensions, that's kind of what I mean here. The different Markiplier variants. Markiplier into the Markiplierverse. That also explains why there's a chef in a date with Markiplier that wants to absolutely murder Markiplier for not paying, and then right afterwards, in Who Killed Markiplier, you have a chef that's actually working for him. The fact that the wormhole can bring you to any dimension at any point in time for that timeline just further proves the fact that this is probably how there began to be so many Markiplier lookalikes, or Chef lookalikes, or Abe lookalikes, or anybody like that. Hey, Titus. So now let's move on to a different question. In one of my past theories before In Space with Markiplier Part 2 released, I brought up a question, and it's that for this scene that's playing in the background right now, what does this mean? What is this? Who does this belong to? And in that past theory, I pretty much said how it's most likely a future version of Markiplier who got separated from the captain. Here's the old clip of me saying that. If you analyze all the papers and stuff that were everywhere on the walls, I think you can kind of tell at least who has been in this kind of dark place. So what if in the next parts of In Space with Markiplier, Markiplier somehow ends up getting trapped inside his own, he gets separated from the captain, and he goes to this version of the spaceship pretty much, and he spins forever there, and he kind of grows old there, and then In Space with Markiplier Part 2 comes out, and we get to see this scene. We went through the wormhole, and now we're back in the dimension with all the writings on the walls and all that. And eventually, as you continue through the hallway, you get to see a man. And who is that man? Well, that man was in fact an old Markiplier that was separated from the captain.
Miss? Who's breathing? Who's breathing? There's not enough air for all of us!
So that is another theory that I ended up getting correct. I mean, technically, in my old theory, I was thinking by old Markiplier, I was talking about this Markiplier right here. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it's close enough.
You've never woken up here before. You were always caught.
But before the video ends, I'm gonna go ahead and answer a few comments that you guys left. Make complete timeline of Markiplier lore. I might, but if I do, it's not gonna be anytime soon. No, the team didn't create the wormhole. Mark did. He created the stupid warp core that created the wormhole. My bad. Now, Tom the Animator YT says, have you noticed with Markiplier in Space Part 1, when Mark shows you the warp core, in the background you can see old Mark? To be honest, I didn't notice that until Markiplier's live stream where he pointed that out, and he also admitted that old Markiplier was the person who sabotaged the ship.
Oh, look at that! Is that old Mark? Could that possibly be old Mark? The damage was intentional because old Mark did sabotage the ship. I am actually going to reveal something to you. If you remember in the opening, you remember how the pilot of the shuttle, when you first come onto the ship, is like, we're going to land in 5, and then you crash. That's all old Mark, even the shuttle crashing. How do you think old Mark got onto the ship? He was on the shuttle with you. He snuck on board, but he was there with you. And this all ties in later, and I'll explain more, but he caused you to crash. Not because he wanted you to die then. He just needed to get on the ship and start sabotaging it before you could start the whole process, because he was trying to stop it.
Tom also says there exists a theory that Mark was trying to warn you about the ending in Space with Markiplier Part 2 because it will loop the universe. And he is in fact talking about this scene right here.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, it's not a problem, of course, but just before you go to sleep, be absolutely sure. Do not...
That is definitely a possibility, and I feel like it's most likely the best option of what he would have said, but I honestly don't really think that he was gonna tell you anything, because in Markiplier's live stream, he does say that that moment was just meant to be some kind of cliche little joke thing that wasn't that big of a deal.
People are asking, do not what? And that's, I'll tell you straight up, that's just a generic joke, right? That's a cliche in storytelling where right before you do something, something tells you, be sure to not, and then they're cut off. It's like the gorilla, the chocolate gorilla melting in the pot of milk. It's like, quickly, I don't have much time. Before I go, you absolutely must, you know, that's that joke. There's nothing to that.
But anyways, that's gonna be it for this video. Make sure to like and subscribe for more Markiplier theories, and as usual, you got a theory? Leave it in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video.